Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and today we're going to end our study of the writing prophets of and from the Northern Kingdom uh, by um, by talking about what happened to the Northern Kingdom. So we have a Northern Kingdom because in the days of Rehoboam, Solomon's evil son, the 10 northern tribes rebelled because he was such a bad king, led by Jeroboam the first, and established a kingdom of the 10 northern tribes. And from that time on, we have the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah, made up of the 2 southern tribes of Judah and Benjamin. And Jeroboam established a new religion where the bull was worshipped, and established a couple of cultic centers and shrines where they worshiped. The people continued to worship Yahweh. Probably some of them continued to go to the southern kingdom on feast days. But like the southern kingdom, they also pursued idolatrous religions, which had entered into the nation all over the nation in Solomon's reign, and just got worse. And so that was happening as well. So throughout the history of the two nations together, um, there were hostilities between the two nations, but more often than not, they were aligning themselves against a common enemy. Um, the first existential threat that they both faced at the same time were the Assyrians. The the Assyrians were the first true empire. I know we talk about Egypt being an empire, but Egypt wanted to be big and prosperous and strong, but it didn't have designs on conquest and ruling the whole world. So we don't have, you know, any of the pharaohs really trying to invade beyond Palestine. They want to control the trade routes. The Assyrians wanted to rule the world, like the Babylonians after them, and the Persians after them, and the Macedonians after them. The Romans, the Golden Horde, the Mongols, the Assyrians were the first that wanted to just continue their whole uh, um, national raison d'etre was to get bigger, 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 and conquer more peoples. And they did. They did destroy and took over Palestine, except for Judah. They got as far as the gates of Jerusalem, and then in one night they lost nearly their entire army when one angel killed them all. But they did take the Syrians, the Arameans, they took the Philistines, they took the northern kingdom. Moab's gone, Ammon's gone. The Edomites survive, but they don't survive the Babylonian captivity. Um, we know this about the Assyrians. They were perhaps the most barbaric people to have an empire. The brutality of the Assyrians is off the charts, and so just killing and dismembering and torturing people for entertainment. Um, the, the, it, I'm not going to describe what they would do. You can look it up to people, what they did to children, what they did to infants, what they did to women. But we know what happened in the aftermath of that invasion and the carrying away of the northern kingdom in captivity. We don't know it from the book of Chronicles because Chronicles is the official record of of what happened in the southern kingdom, but in the book of Kings, which we know that Kings and Chronicles overlap and they plow the same field, but Kings is not an official record. It's more of a popular history. It's history the way Doris Kearns Goodwin would write it. It's not the congressional record. And from 2 Kings chapter 17, we find out that the Assyrians do what they did when they came to town. They hauled off the population into captivity. They left behind certain pockets of people that maybe they missed, or maybe people that they didn't think that were worth taking or not worth their time to torture and kill. So people who had disabilities, people who were too old, they just left some, people who were leprous or they thought were leprous. They just left some. of the northern kingdom folks behind. And then they moved in others. Because what they did when they captured a population was they would scatter that population so that they could not maintain their cultural identity, and then enslave them. And then they would take others that they had conquered, a mixed bag of people, an ethnic soup, and move them into the area that they had just conquered to prevent from happening the thing that happened when Persia let the Jews from the southern kingdom go back and rebuild Jerusalem. They were not going to let that happen. And so that's what they did. But um, lions were ravaging the population. And you can read about this in 2 Kings 17. And so the people who had been moved in there as pioneers, as settlers, um, uh, pleaded with the Assyrians. They think the local god is angry with us. So send us someone to teach us how to worship the local god. And that's what they did. They found some priests of Yahweh among the people they had taken captive just recently and sent them back to instruct the people how to worship Yahweh. And that's what the people started doing. And this group, this ethnic soup of people, which did include some people from the southern kingdom who had been trained on the five books of Moses, to worship Yahweh in heaven. This group of, but to worship him in that area, not to go down to Jerusalem. And Jerusalem isn't mentioned in the first five books of the Bible because Jerusalem didn't become the capital until David was king. It was a Jebusite city. Those people that learned to worship Yahweh from the first five books and to worship him in the northern kingdom, those people became the Samaritans that we read about in the New Testament. That's who they are. That's where we meet them. Now, some people from the northern kingdom are preserved through the Samaritans and then hear the gospel, but some make their way back to, as Jews, to the southern kingdom, or to the area of the southern kingdom, because we meet Anna of the tribe of Asher in Luke chapter 2. So there were a handful of people who came back and were part of the resettlement when Jews from the southern kingdom were able to come back during the Persian Empire. So that's what happened to the northern kingdom. And you can read about that in 2 Kings 17 and from other sources, ancient sources and modern sources as well. Okay, next time we're together, we're going to introduce our new topic. We're going to talk about Peter and Paul and their last days and how they were martyred in Rome. But we're going to talk about the triumph of that. And we're going to read the last books that they wrote. We're going to read 2 Timothy and 2 Peter, when both men know they're about to die. But we'll introduce that next time. Thank you so much for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.